welcome back to Surviving Me. I'm your host, Day. But what happens when survival becomes part of your identity before you're even old enough to understand what survival means? Today's guest knows that reality firsthand. Nicholas Kelly, who likes to be called Nick, was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis as an infant, meaning hospitals, uncertainty, and constantly having to think about his health became part of his normal life from the very beginning. But instead of allowing his diagnosis to define him, Nicholas eventually transformed his experiences into advocacy, education, and purpose. He now speaks from both perspectives as someone who has personally navigated chronic illness and as a clinician, helping others regain agencies in their own lives. In this conversation, we'll talk about growing up with chronic illness, emotional resilience, identity, adapting to uncertainty, redefining success, and what it really means to build a life beyond survival mode, which I know is what we're all about over here on Surviving Me. So to jump right on into it, well, before we jump right on into it, Nick, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Kelly. Nick is fine. I like to say thank you for having me. So a little bit about me. As she mentioned, I am a 39-year-old male living with cystic fibrosis. I was diagnosed at 3 months old. The interesting part of that is it was actually my mother who diagnosed me.
Oh, wow.
Why? Because 39 years ago, they didn't think African Americans could have the disease, so no one would actually test me for it. So it was her who did the research, and she was the one who diagnosed me. That's always been an interesting part of my story because it starts with the tenacity and resilience that we talk about that has kind of shaped and molded my life from the beginning before I was even old enough to know.
Love that. And I'm so excited to jump on right in through this interview. So y'all know how we start off with guest interviews. We start off with the womb, which is the childhood, early spiral, and then growing up. So the first question would be, you were diagnosed with cystic fibrosis as an infant, meaning survival became part of your story very early in life. So what's something about growing up with chronic illness that people often misunderstood?
I think the biggest thing of growing up with chronic illness is living with the uncertainty associated with it. And that carries throughout your life. But when you're younger, you have to navigate so many parts of life. You're just learning yourself. And so now you have to learn yourself and part of this disease as part of yourself as well. So it gets complicated and it adds that extra layer. Even for me, I was 5 years old when I had open heart surgery. I spent 6 months in the hospital. So navigating that time was something that no child usually has to do. And so that was a really important and pivotal time for me as well.
Wow. That is, wow. I don't even know what to say because you're right. Most children do not have to go through that. So I couldn't imagine you going through that. And then I know since you were so young, do you even kind of remember it?
I absolutely remember it. I actually remember it down to the detail of when I was on the surgical table. I had the same exact dream for the surgery. I was laying flat on the table and I would roll off, and right before I hit the ground, I would get back on the table. I remember it, and I had that dream for the entirety of my surgery.
Wow.
And when I was in the hospital, I remember it. Now, the thing is, during that time, I remember it very fondly. I remember having fun. I was never alone. I had video games. I still had to do homework. That sucks. But other than that, I remember it as a very enjoyable time. I didn't know until I got older, my parents would stand at the door, and before a person would enter, they would give them bad or news about me, and how they reacted is if they were allowed to come in. If they start crying, they weren't allowed to come in until they were able to compose themselves, because my parents never wanted me to see danger. They never wanted me to see bad. Where I found out they, however, spent most of their nights crying for me, but I never got to see that.
That is amazing. That is so beautiful. And I'm here for that. So what did day-to-day life look like living with this illness for you as a child?
So as a child, day-to-day literally looked like most children in the sense of I was held to the same standards. I had the same expectations. The biggest thing was the way my parents incorporated my disease is, so you get up, you brush your teeth, you wash your face, you eat cereal. I get up, I brush my teeth, wash my face, do my treatment, then eat cereal. So they just incorporated it as an extra step in my life. So I didn't know anything different because it was just one extra step.
Right.
Like, hey, Nick has to do this. Everyone doesn't have to do this. But if, someone wears glasses, don't forget your glasses.
Right.
There's just that extra step that you incorporate into your daily life. And that's what it like for me growing up.
That's okay. So it was kind of like pretty normal, just like with an extra, like, okay, I just got to do this little extra thing. Overall, it was pretty normal per se, whatever people consider normal to be.
Yes. So even when I played sports, I had, because of the heart, I used to have to wear like a chest protector when I was playing baseball. And if I forgot it, I couldn't play. So that was just something that I would always have, like, okay. And it was my responsibility for it.
Right.
Like, my parents very much early empowered me and let things be my responsibility. So very early, I had to navigate my disease and be responsible for my disease.
Got it. So you learn responsibility at an early age, whereas most kids, when you're younger, you don't really be that too responsible. Like, you forget a lot of stuff, you overlook all this stuff, but it sounds like with you, it required you to be a little bit more responsible than an average child.
Absolutely, 100%.
Got it. That makes sense. That makes total sense. So I think sometimes people underestimate how chronic illness can shape a child emotionally, especially when you're carrying responsibilities or fears most kids aren't thinking about yet. So did living with your illness ever make you feel like you had to grow up faster than everyone else around you?
I would say no, but I say that because all the kudos and praise goes to my parents because they allowed me to be integrated into the family as normal. I was never looked at as sick. I was never allowed to be looked at as sick. And so the expectations my sisters had, I had too. So even if, say we were on a hike, I was expected to do the hike. Even if I had to sit down, that's just me taking a rest, no different than anybody else taking a rest. I might just have to do it more, but I was still expected to do the hike. And so those are the kind of things that were put in place that made it where I was very much in the fold of things. Now, I also will add, my lungs didn't get worse until I got older. When I was younger, it was my GI system. So that I did have to navigate, and that was different, navigating the pain that I consistently had with GI and those different things. So, and then when I get to my early teen years, the allergies, the food allergies, that was a really big difference too. But as a child, not as many of those things were different.
That's beautiful. Even though you had this chronic illness, it sounds like you had a pretty normal childhood, just like any other child. And that is amazing because you don't hear too many stories like that. Like, most people will be like, oh, it was different because of this, because I had to go through this, and no, none of the kids was doing it. Your story don't sound like that, and that's amazing.
Yeah, like I said, I knew differences. Like, I had a CF camp I went to, and that was dramatically different than when I went to regular camp. There were so many limitations on me when I went to regular camp, and that's when I realized, okay, I am different.
Right.
So I had seen it, and I had experienced it, but I only experienced it because I was around other people who made me feel different.
Got it. But not inside your actual home.
Exactly.
Got it. Beautiful. Love that. Love your parents' approach to it. I love that. So when survival becomes part of your everyday reality, it can force you to confront things about yourself very early on. So what's something living with your illness forced you to confront about yourself at a young age?
I think the thing you confront first is mortality. Because when you have a chronic disease that is lethal, and as a child, it was one of the deadliest chronic diseases a person could have, you're forced to face a reality that you may not get older.
Right.
You may not see X birthday. I was told, and my parents were told, I wasn't going to make it to 1 year old, 2 years old, 4 years old. I wasn't going to make it till 7, 10, 12, 15, and 16. And then after that, they just stopped counting me out.
Period. You beat the odds. Amazing. Love that. So how did that feel, like beating those odds? I know, because it's one thing to hear them saying that, like, okay, you won't make it to such and such age. How did it feel hearing that? And then showing them that no, you did, and how did that make you feel?
It's so hard to really understand having an expiration date
Right,
or what that means, especially when you're young.
right,
You're like, wait, this thing that I have, I could not live for it.
right,
Like, it's so hard to like really articulate in a way that somebody can understand. Like, this is going to be the thing that kills me.
right,
And so that's a really hard thing to grasp, especially when you're young. And then when you start beating the odds, you start feeling two things. You start feeling, okay, why would they tell me that? Why did they lie to me?
right.
But you also start feeling invincible in some ways, which kind of strings you down the other way. Because if you
Right.
feel invincible, it's like, I don't need to do any of this. I'm good. Like, I'm good. I promise y'all. I've done that.
Okay.
Like, and so that gives you the other perspective where you have to shift back towards the middle.
I think that makes total sense because while we all know that death is guaranteed to all of us, none of us really know how we're gonna go up out of here. So it's something for a doctor to be telling you, like, you know you're gonna die, but then to hear how you might die is crazy. I couldn't imagine. But like you said, with beating the odds, I could also imagine how it could make you feel like, yeah, y'all some liars. Like, what?
Absolutely. You get that. And like I said, it's two sides of the same coin. So you get that, yeah, y'all some liars, and you also get that invincible mode.
Right. So, was there ever a season where you struggled emotionally with the weight of your diagnosis?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it started trending as I got older. The older I got, the more I struggled. Because the disease, it's a heavy disease. And when you start losing people because of the same thing that you have, it's really hard to comprehend. It's really hard to say, hey, remember that date they gave you? Well, now you're seeing people you love lose at that age. So it's like, okay, and what were they doing? They were doing the same thing. They were taking care of themselves. They were looking out for themselves, or looking over themselves. And then all of a sudden, they're not here anymore.
Right.
And so that messes with you. And the mental weight that puts on you, letting someone dying from the same thing you got and doing the same thing you are, that is mentally taxing, to say the least.
Could only imagine. So, living with uncertainty long term could completely change how a person approach life, control, and even the future. So, how did living with uncertainty affect the way you view control and planning for your own future?
Planning for the future is, I've never been a big planner for the future.
Okay.
And I like to think part of that is just because I live in the moment and I understand the preciousness of life. But I would be remiss if I didn't say part of it is because of my disease. And I never lived in the future because I never knew how far my future would go.
Right.
And so because of that, I was stuck living in the moment, and not in a negative way, but it was more me in the moment. I experienced all the things in the moment. I could say Nick lived. And even in high school, I had this idea of, I didn't want to spend time reading books about people who lived their life when I could live mine.
Period.
Like, that was my mentality. So I had to still get good grades because my parents didn't play that. But I could have been a valedictorian, or I could skate by with a 3.0. I skated by with a 3.0. It's still respectable 3.0, okay? But I'm not going the extra mile because the extra mile would have required me to spend way more time in the books and way less time in these streets.
Honestly, living in the moment is a beautiful thing in itself. And honestly, a lot of people don't typically do that, though. So I feel like with you living your life as like living in the moment, you really enjoyed whatever you did. Every little moment mattered more than an average person because most people typically don't live in the moment. I think it's beautiful.
It gave me that perspective. And even to this day, I'm very much that way. Despite beating the odds and continuing to beat the odds, even to this day, I'm very much this way. I don't believe in I don't have long-term goals. I have things on my to-do, like what I call my to-do list.
Mhm.
And the reason I call it that is because I think it's a mentality shift. If you
Mhm.
had like people had their bucket list, their long-term
Mhm.
goals, whatever that
Mhm.
might be, they this is something you're striving for and achieving and hoping that you do.
Right.
Whereas you have a to-do list, you don't hope to do your things on your to-do list. You're just gonna do them. Like you
Exactly.
don't go to the grocery store on your to-do list and hope one day I'll get to the grocery store. No, you're just gonna go to the grocery store.
Right.
It's just something you're going to do. And that's why I believe in a to-do list. Like I'm going to see all 50 states. It's not on my bucket list. I know it's not a long-term goal. It's just something I'm going to do. It's
Period.
on my to-do list because it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's just something that's going to happen. And so
Right.
those are the kind of things how my mentality has shifted over time versus thinking as people might think of traditional goals, long-term,
Mhm.
short-term goals. I just don't think that way.
And quite honestly, I feel like school kind of pushes that for you. Like, oh, you need to be thinking about your future and what you want to do. And I think society, not even just school, society itself pushes that on you. Like, oh, you have to have goals. You have to have a 5-year plan and all that jazz. But hearing how you approach it and look at, I honestly, yes. And not even just because you have a sickness. I think more people, even if you don't have a sickness, you should live like that. Because at the end of the day, no day is guaranteed to you. Like you could wake up and you could not wake up tomorrow, or you could wake up and get hit by a car. I know that was a bit, sorry y'all, but I mean, that's the reality of it. So I think the way he chooses to look at life and the whole to-do list thing, I am here for it. Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's just something I've forged over time. It's done me well. I've been able to do some pretty cool stuff based on that thinking.
I bet. So at some point, survival shifts from simply reacting into intentionally learning how to navigate life differently. Over time, what habits, routines, or mindsets, I know you said your to-do list, but what else made essential for you to learn how to navigate life with your illness?
I call it like my CS survival kit.
Okay.
Understanding how to navigate the disease. For example, having thick skin.
Yes.
Like you get it quick. The web is not kind. And so
No.
that's one thing I always tell people, have thick skin, be adaptable. With CS, things change really fast. They can go from the highs of highs, the lows of lows, and something in the middle very quickly. And so you have to be adaptable. You need support, whatever that support might be, friends, family, clinician, whoever that support might be, get it and find it. Let that be your community. Let that be part of your community. Put a system in place, systems and routines. For example, I take, on average, I'm up to 30, I might be 41, I think I just added. So let's say 31 medications a day I'm responsible for.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a lot. And I put all my meds in this one bag. It's like a drawstring bag, and I dump it out every day. Everyone loves it. Looks like a dang pharmacy. I jump it all out, and I go through each one, and I put them in my palm, and I look, and I count them, and I look at the shapes. And that way I know if I'm missing a med, because I do it every day. That's how I remember to take my meds. I have this bag, so if I ever lost my bag, I'm a little screwed. But I have this bag every day because that allows me to remember to take all my medications that are oral. I still have to do my treatments, my insulin, those other different things that are not like oral meds. But that's a strategy that I implemented. And I tell people, implement different strategies, implement different patterns that will allow you to be successful.
Love that. So for anyone listening who may not know what cystic fibrosis is, can you give like a brief overview of what initially it is?
Yes. So cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease that primarily affects the lungs, the pancreas, and the GI system. However, what they don't tell you is that it can affect every other organ in every other part of your body, your relationships, your sexual fertility. It can affect your liver, your kidneys, and it can affect it all. So what happens is CS builds this thick, sticky mucus inside the body that gets stuck and blocks up different ducts, different bowels, different areas in the body, specifically the lungs. And inside the lungs, that mucus collects bacteria that bacteria causes scarring in the lungs, which decreases breathing ability over time. And that is ultimately what causes people respiratory distress, and eventually is usually what kills them.
So would you eventually, as you know, get older, would you eventually have to be on oxygen?
Yes. So a lot of people as they get older, and sometimes it happens young. CF is, snowflake disease. So if you met one person with CF, you've only met one person with CF, because everyone's prognosis, everyone's transition is different, how their severity is different. So I know people who are 10 years old who are on oxygen.
Wow.
And I know people who are 30 years old who just got on oxygen. So it's a vast range. I myself have been on oxygen at different points in my life.
Got it. So basically, this disease is kind of like unique to the person, even though it is a disease that others can get, is very unique to the actual person.
Correct.
Got it. Makes sense. So at what point did you begin feeling like your diagnosis no longer defined who you are?
So this was kind of interesting, because very early on, I never wanted my disease to define who I was.
Right.
So I pushed against it. Like, I distanced myself from my disease. I wouldn't tell people I had it. I wouldn't talk about it. Like, I never wanted to be looked at as sick, and I never wanted to be looked at as my disease.
Got it.
It wasn't until I got older where I actually, because of some things that happened in my life, is where I actually embraced my disease. And I started to understand that my disease does not define me, but it has shaped me to who I am.
Right.
And that was a different shift. And I was able to be more embraced. I was able to talk about it. I was able to discuss it more because of that shift.
Got it. That makes total sense. And now you're in a position where your lived experiences are helping other people navigate their own journey. You now speak from both the perspectives of a patient and a clinician. How did your personal experience shape the way you help others today?
The biggest thing I learned is communication and empathy.
Yes.
How to talk to patients, how to show up for patients, and how to be aware of what clinicians are going through. Most clinicians will never experience being sick, and most patients will never experience being a clinician. So there's a gap that exists because the other side doesn't know what the other side is going through. So my always goal is to help both sides come a little closer together by understanding what they're going through and how to best help them in a unique and interesting way. Because despite different diseases, patients are still patients, clinicians are still clinicians. So how can I help bridge that gap and change that frame of thinking? And that's a lot of times what it is, changing the mind state. One example I gave is what I call my healthy person's mind state. And that's understanding, like, most people think of life from a healthy standpoint, what it's like to be healthy. And that's okay because they're healthy. But it's hard for them to realize, and for example, this is just an easy example. Most people have experienced pulling into a Walmart parking lot and somebody is in a handicapped space and they walk out and they just walk right into the grocery store. And that person looks at, oh, they're not handicapped, they just walked in.
Right.
However, what they don't know is that this person has a lung disease, i.e. CF. That means, yes, that exact moment, they were able to walk. But if you wait later, they can make that same walk without taking 5 breaks because they can only walk 5 steps at a time.
Exactly.
Because that's how the disease is showing up at that time.
So basically, just don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly. Especially because a lot of people have what are known as invisible diseases. You don't see it. You don't know it. You're riding from the inside out. So, everyone has an idea of what disabled looks like, what sick looks like. But when people don't fit that mold, it becomes very different. And that's where the conversation comes, that healthy person's mind state. So trying to debunk that thinking.
Exactly that. I love that. And honestly, that is something that I want to say I preach on this podcast, is letting people know sometimes it's all about just changing your perspective on things and your mindset, and it would change everything else for you. Like, I don't think people understand how strong changing your mindset actually is and how much it can change a lot of other things for you just by changing the way you think about things, literally.
the mind state, the mentality is the biggest approach and the biggest thing that we have control over, and how we change our mind state, how we approach each other, how we approach our situations.
Exactly that. I think one of the most powerful things about healing is how it can completely redefine what success even means to us. So, what inspired you to turn your experiences into advocacy, speaking, and education?
So what got me there, and I'm going to share a little story, is so I had a sister, CYSTR, and we grew up together. It was me, Shelly, and Nick. We were like the three musketeers. We did everything together. And Nick passed away. He was the first person I lost. He passed away when I was, and so me and Shelly, that brought our bond even closer, because it was just us.
Right.
And Shelly passed away when I was 25.
Oh.
Now, Shelly would always tell me, Nick, tell your story. You can really help someone. I was like, no, I have no interest. She was like, look, tell your story. You could really be a benefit to people. And I was like, other people are doing that. I don't need to. And so when she passed, I was so broken that the only way for me to heal was to start telling our story. And by telling our story, I allowed that to use me to heal. And so it's funny, I always tell people that, she would always tell me, Nick, tell your story. You can really help somebody. I never knew I would be the one who was helping. That's actually how I became a public speaker, from those experiences. So she is really the catalyst for everything I do, every advocacy I do. She's the catalyst, because before that, I had no interest. I wasn't talking about it, as I mentioned before, but she became that catalyst. So her passing was the catalyst for me to become an advocate, talk about CF openly, educate people about CF, and really take my experiences and bring them to the forefront and be a champion.
Love that. Love that. And I'm so sorry for both of your losses. I couldn't imagine losing friends and so young at that. Like, so sorry for that. But shout out to both of them, because it sounds like they are the reason why you are here and why you're telling your story. And that is beautiful. So shout out to them.
Shout out to them. I always tell people, because of this disease, I've lost more people than I can count. So it got to the point where I've lost so many people, I've had to narrow it down to what I call my big four. The four people have impacted my life the most. It started with Nick when I was 16. And then it went to Kevin when I was 21, 22. Then Shelly when I was 25. And then Angie when I was 20. So
Wow.
Each one of those people at a different stage in my life, losing them impacted me so heavily. Kevin was like my big brother. And so he would always tell me, like, man, you're just like me. And I never saw it. And he would always give me these gems. And, being young, you're like, I don't see it. I'm nothing like you. And he's like, yeah, man, you're going to experience the same thing. And when I got older, I was like, man, I'm just not like the things he was telling me about the health and how I would progress and how my relationships would progress. He told me all these things and I didn't listen. Now I'm like, man, we knew what he was talking about.
Okay.
Always little brother, big bro. So
That's just that natural, like that sibling thing, even though you said he was like, but that's how real siblings be too. Like, you don't really hear enough of your older siblings be saying until you go through something like, hold on, they knew what they was talking about.
yeah, absolutely. It was like, man, they was really on to something.
Oh,
And so for me, I was like, all right, well, now that I know it, I also try to share that wisdom with the younger generation if I can. And hopefully they can take a gem or two away from me.
exactly that. And oh my God, it's so crazy how you just said a gym, because that is literally what I say all my guests bring to my listeners. Y'all be dropping gems and, pick up them gems, because you never know why you may needed to hear something until you hear it. Don't let it go over your heads, y'all.
Talk to him. Talk to him now.
Okay? Your platform is called Define Your Success. How has your definition of success changed throughout your journey?
The reason I call it Define Your Success is because I believe only you can define your success.
Period.
Because success is not a goal to be achieved. Success is merely a byproduct of the hard work a person puts in.
Exactly.
And I'll give an example. If you work at McDonald's and your boss tells you you're going to get $1 or $2 raise, we're going to be ecstatic. Because of your hard work, you deserved it. Now, if you go to somebody on Wall Street and their boss tells them they're going to get a $1 or $2 raise, they're going to jump out the window. because they're at different stages. And that means the work they put in is not correlating to the success they're having. And that's why I call it define your success, because only you can define your success. Success is not a goal to be achieved, but merely a byproduct of the hard work put in.
I think that's beautifully said. And a different way to look at it. Yes. Yes. Love that. I'm gonna take that, and that was something I needed to hear, because yes.
I appreciate it. And it really helps put in perspective and focus because of social media and things like that. We have the comparative culture where everything is look what this person's doing versus look what this person's doing. And what's good for one thing is not good for everything. And so that puts people in situations where they're trying to force that round peg to go in the square. And it doesn't work. It doesn't navigate. It doesn't situate well. And so that's one of those things that really, how you change it.
Exactly that. Because what works for you might not work for the next person, but that doesn't mean that it does not work.
Absolutely.
So looking at your life today, what are you most proud of surviving internally?
That's a tough question, but I believe I would say the loss, because those things put me in such a dark place that it took a lot to come out of them. So the fact that I was able to navigate through and turn each loss into a stepping stone towards my legacy and towards my healing is the thing that I find was the most important and the thing that I took away from the most.
Makes sense. So I know you had touched on it a little bit briefly where you said that your illness it affects those three things that you said, but it also affects your whole entire body. You said relationship and sexually and all that. So are you able to have kids, or do you have kids?
I do not have kids, and I am infertile. So for me to have children, I would have to go through an IVF process.
Got it. So did you ever want kids?
So I never really wanted children.
Okay.
That was never something that I was ever really wanted. As I got older, I became open to the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I had a partner who was in it, but that was well older, and I became more open to the conversation. But I think wants and needs, I don't like to say I want or need a child, because that implies if I don't have one, I'll feel incomplete.
Right.
And that's just not how I feel. I don't feel incomplete without a child.
I love that. And honestly, more power to you, because not everybody want kids, and that is okay. But it's something I think is beautiful that you feel that way, because it would be something if you did want it and then you have to go through all the pressures of trying to have one. So I think it's beautiful that you are at that stage far as with the whole kid thing. Lovely.
It was a process. It's been a process navigating it. It's definitely been had some up and downs in my relationships with it because of it. So it's definitely been an interesting dynamic, to say the least.
Okay, I can definitely imagine. So I know when people have certain chronic illnesses, it does affect the relationships that they have in their lives. Have your illness affected your relationship besides not having kids? Have it affected your relationship in other ways?
Absolutely, man. And it's not just romantic relationship, your friendships, your familiar relationships. When they find out you have CF, pretty much everything changed. You have the some people who everything is overreaction. You cough once if they think you're dying. You have the underreaction where you cough up 2 liters of blood and they think, oh, it's just part of the process. And then you have the people in the center who are so indifferent because they don't know how to act, that they can't be the support you need them to be. And so those are three, now that's not every, but those are three very common reactions. And especially in relationships, I've heard people tell me, I want a partner, not a patient. So it's oh, okay, I didn't really think of it like that. And like I said, I'm one of the more healthier ones in the grand scheme of things. But I recently talked to someone who knew someone with CS, and just the experiences that they had shaped them differently. So when you hear the disease, when you don't know a lot about disease, when you know a lot about the disease, everyone has these different experiences and different expectations. I always try to tell people, don't Google it. Ask me the questions.
Okay.
But Google mess around and give you the doom and gloom.
That's what any.
But I've had people come to me and, hey, you're a nice guy, but I don't think I can do this. Or all of a sudden we were vibing, everything was going great, like dates and everything. And then all of a sudden they find out I have CF, and all of a sudden this isn't working out.
Wow.
It's like what changed between yesterday when you was in my face to today. Oh, you found out I had CS. There's like nothing else in the timeline that changes. That's often how you know it's the CF, when nothing else in the timeline changes except that one bit of, now it's a big piece of information, don't get me wrong, but that's the only thing that's changed in the timeline, and it's happened to me multiple times.
Wow. So are you currently single? Like, how do you feel about relationships now?
I still try to build relationships.
That's great.
So I'm in a situation where I build relationships, and there are people who understand. There are people who it doesn't affect the same way. You know, when I go into the hospital, so on average, I spend about, generally, I've been a little lucky lately, knock on wood, but generally I would spend like a third of my year in the hospital. So my average length of stay is 31 days. Wow. So I'm in the hospital for 31 days. There's a lot that goes into that. And some people deal with it better than others. Some people I've been in relationships with or I've been dating deal with it better than others. I've had one girl I was talking to for like 8 months ghost me because of all the pressures of the hospital. Like it was all about how she felt about the hospital, and then all of a sudden just stopped talking to me.
Wow.
And it was some of that realization part, like, okay, this is part of my normal. Now, like I said, in the hospital, if I didn't tell you I had CF, you would never know. And when I'm in the hospital, I have people come into the room all the time and go, okay, where's the patient? Because I wear like street clothes. I wear street clothes. So I wear like my jogger suit, or I wear a hoodie and some sweats. And they'll be looking for the patient. And I have to tell them, oh man, that's me. Because I look so, I don't look quote unquote sick. So I've had that happen to me multiple times. And so I told you, like, man, if I didn't tell you, you would never know. But when I finally have to tell you, or I finally have to experience it, it is very different.
So do you dread, like, when you going into a relationship for the first time, is that something you dread, having to tell people that? Or is it now just like, you know what, let me just get it right off the bat from the jump and then continue that way?
Absolutely not. Everyone dreads it. Everyone dreads the moments where you say, hey, I have cystic fibrosis. Like, because we all know that's what we call the talk. It's that moment when you have to tell someone you have cystic fibrosis. We call it the talk in the community. So even to this day, I tell people sooner than I used to, but I don't start with it. I don't lead with it. Absolutely not. I still take my enzymes in the bathroom so I don't have to get questioned.
Okay.
And I'm not withholding. It's just there's a lot of pieces and parts of me. Like I said, that's just one part of my story. And often when people hear that part, it becomes how they identify it. So I rather someone get to know me as the whole part of my story, or the bigger part of my story, than just one part. I'd automatically isolate that part and make that my identity.
Right. I can understand that. I guess it would be like, because you don't fear, like, I know I can understand everything you just said. But, like, is there something that be like, okay, like, maybe you're really feeling this girl or whatever, and y'all have a great vibe, but you know that you want to have the talk, as y'all said, y'all call it the talk in the community. Does that not dread it, like, man, because I don't want to mess up this vibe or have it potentially mess up this vibe? It's just like, it is what it is type thing?
That's why you dread it. For that very reason, because you don't want to mess up the vibe, especially when the vibe is going good. That was hard. The vibe was going good. You got a nice little flow. Everything's cool.
Okay.
And then you got to tell them, oh, by the way, I have this kind of disease. It depends when you tell them, like, remember I told them at different stages of my life. It's like, oh, by the way, I have this, because like a lot of health advancements have happened recently, so it gives people more hope. But even before these health advances happen, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, I have this kind of disease that will likely kill me. Can't tell you when, but I know I'll get sicker, so at some point we're gonna have to deal with someone who gets sick. So, but in the positive, I have a really nice smile. Let's try to focus on that. You just want to be really tactful. It's really like a strategic sniper, how you want to put that out the chamber. Like that's really what it is. You want to be really strategic with that conversation, how you implement it. And like I said, there is no great time, but you just try to do it. You try to do it in between getting to know someone before they catch their feelings, but enough to where they're invested in you as the person.
Right.
That's like the sweet spot, if you will.
I totally get that. I believe I seen your picture from your email. You do have a great smile, so I will give you that.
I appreciate you.
It's great. So yes. But man, I could not imagine the challenges you go through for dating, and not even just dating, just health-wise alone, man. Because like you said, something you said that I completely agree with, and that is the world is not kind at all. They're not. There's not enough kind people out here, and we need more of it, people. I'm going to keep preaching it every episode until it becomes a thing. We need more kind people. I don't understand why people just don't have compassion and empathy. It's not hard to give. I swear it's not.
It's not, but it takes no effort to be kind.
It really don't.
Like,
It really don't. It
but
truly don't.
it takes effort to be vile, and people want to put their efforts where they want to put their efforts at.
Exactly that. Exactly that. So if we jump into the last segment of this interview, which is the message. So a lot of people listening may feel limited by their circumstances or their diagnosis or the fear that life may never look the way they imagine. So for someone listening who feels limited by their circumstances or diagnosis, what would you want them to understand about possibility and resilience?
There's a couple of things. The first one is find your why. Why things matter to you. Why the things you love. For me, I believe that's passion. I believe if people find passion, it will allow them to be more productive. It will allow them to utilize purpose. And that is what is the most important thing a single person can have, because that's the why. Why is that passion? And allow that passion to be the thing that builds you. Number two, do not let your disease define you. Like something someone once told me is, Nick, CF doesn't have you, you have CF.
Exactly.
And that is something I urge everyone, and that's anyone that'll do anything. Do not let that piece of your story define you. Just understand it's just a piece of the story that is a part of your story. And that's for anybody, because we so often get caught up in identity and what our identity is and what our label is that we lose sight of you're so much more than any one individual thing.
Period.
And no matter what that one individual thing is, you are more than that. So you want to incorporate those things as a part of who you are. And that's the most important thought. And the lastly is resilience is built on obstacles. Obstacles are just opportunities to be great.
Period. That was beautifully said. Okay, Nick. Y'all heard some Jocko Jones for y'all? Y'all better take it with y'all. Yes. That was beautifully said, and I know y'all feel it too, because I felt it. Yes. Love that. And the last question that I always ask every guest before we wrap it on up would be, if this conversation was a chapter in your healing book, what would you call it?
If this episode was the chapter in my healing book, what would I call it? The message.
Period.
I would call it the message. I think for me, getting the message out there about resilience, about, my story is my story, but understanding how my story translates to everybody. My story is mine individually, but it doesn't mean that other people can't take away things from my story, whether you have chronic disease, whether you don't have chronic disease. Everybody experiences something. And so understanding that everyone experiencing something, that this is merely this is my message to those people experiencing anything, that these things are possible. These things are all about mentality. And the strongest individual thing anyone has is mentality.
Period. I think that was beautiful. And I think that's a perfect name to call the chapter. I feel that. So to wrap it on up, thank you again, Nick, so much for being willing to share your story and your perspective so openly. I think this conversation is such an important reminder that survival isn't always loud. Sometimes it's adapting, sometimes it's grieving, and sometimes it's learning how to build a meaningful life while still carrying uncertainty. And I hope anyone listening who may be navigating chronic illness, fear, or limitations of their own understand that their life is still worthy of purpose and joy and possibility. If this episode resonated with you, make sure you share it with someone who may needs it. And before we wrap it up, is there anything you like, any place you want to tell the guests to go, anything you would like to share with the guests, anything you'd like to promote?
Yeah, so my website is kelly.com. So that's KELLYRD as registered dietitian.com. All my socials are at Nicholas Kelly. So all my socials and my email is nicholaskellyRD@gmail.com. So I love connecting with people. I love being in the conversation. You can check out my cookbook, and I would love for you to check out my cookbook, check out my things. And, I'm always looking for the opportunity to collaborate, to speak. So, I'm available, and I love being able to be that guiding light for people and that resource and that bit of education.
Period. And don't forget to check out his amazing smile, as he mentioned. And don't forget it to leave a rating and a review. It truly helps push Surviving Me to more people who need these conversations. And as I always say, no matter what page of healing you're on, you're not alone and you're not behind. Keep going through it. Keep growing through it. And keep glowing through it. Because the journey back to yourself will always be the hardest work, but it's the most necessary. Okay. And I will see y'all next episode.
I've battled the silence. I've wrestled the shame. Faced all my demons and called them by name. This ain't for show, it's deeper than deep. I'm surviving me, not losing sleep.